Good morning everyone and welcome to my craft room. My name's Julianne Richards and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in southern Tasmania. Thanks for joining me. A couple of apologies up front. Apologies that I'm a few minutes early. Oh, just checking my volume, sorry. Apologies that I'm a few minutes early. I've just been informed by my son that he and his fiancée are going to start cooking any moment in my kitchen, which is just on the other side of a very flimsy wall. So I thought I'd try and get on before they start with all their noise, so that we can at least get a few minutes peace and quiet before they start. Anyway, and the second apology is my hay fever is playing up a treat at the moment, so I am a little bit sniffy, so apologies if I'm trying not to, but if I do, I sound a bit nasally. It's just that I've got horrible hay fever at the moment, which being spring is probably not unexpected. Today, you're watching me tell myself that I don't need any more Christmas stamps or dies. I've got the new quite curvy bundle here, which is one of the new, it's a pre-release for the next mini catalogue which comes out in January, and it did actually come with a Christmas version as well with lots of curvy Christmas sentiments, and I told myself at the time when I ordered this that I didn't need any more Christmas stuff. So now I am trying to make Christmas cards using a non-Christmas stamp, and you know, it's not going too badly. I think it's if you have a fairly loose definition of what defines a Christmas card. But anyway, so yes, I'm going to be using the quite curvy non-Christmas stamp set and dies to create something with a little bit of a Christmas flair. And this is the first card I'm going to do today, which has already been posted quite successfully on my Facebook page, which sort of inspired me to do the video today. So we're going to be doing this one. To be honest, the real star of the show in both these cards is this designer series paper, which is, and I've only just bought it, is the Heartwarming Hugs designer series paper. And you'll see more of it in a moment, but it's got some really nice bright reds, which to me yell Christmas. Anyway, so they're in the catalogue or online if you'd like to have a look at the patterns. But yes, as I said, I told myself I didn't need anything more Christmassy, and so I ended up buying the paper, which I suppose is sort of a compromise. Anyway, okay, so let's get on with this card before my kids go into the kitchen and start bashing and crashing around. Okay, so the first card today, I've already cut everything. It's I'll pop this out of the way. It's a normal card base, 8 3/4 by 8 1/4 by 5 3/4, scored in the middle. See, my hay fever is playing up. I can't even speak. Scored in the middle. So this one's going to be a landscape card, so we're actually going to be looking at it that way this time. Then I have a panel of real red, so just crazy bright red, and it is a full 1/4 inch smaller, so it would be 3 7/8 by 5 1/2 in size. And then cut a piece of Whisper White, and I have actually already popped this through the die set, so I'll just show you the dies that come with the Curvy Bundle. You'll see more of them later, but there's this really cute little sort of dotty edged curve, which yeah, is really, really sweet. And we've got a couple of ornate curves as well, and obviously the little flowers and birds that come with the stamp set as well. So if you're not into birds, or if you're not into curves and things, the birds are quite pretty on their own, and some of the sentiments are really cute too. Okay, so that piece of cardstock there, when I first started with it, was a 1/4 inch smaller than the real red. So that would have been 5 1/4 by, I think I cut it to about 3 inches, and then popped it through the die set, the die cutter, with that swerve pattern there. And the other part is a piece of this, as I mentioned, this wonderful designer series paper, this wonderful red stripe, and that is the same width or length as the white, so it would be 5 1/4. Okay, so there we go. So that's basically the fundamentals of the card itself. So I might actually put that together. So we're going to have some glue and just glue the real red. I mean, that is a beautiful bright red, that one, onto our card base. The second card I'm going to do for you today you haven't seen yet. It's a new one, but again it features this wonderful curvy pattern plus the wonderful designer series paper. So I've got the designer series paper at the bottom half. There we are. And then we overlay it with the white. And line those up as best you can either side. There we are. Okay, so now we're going to decorate this white panel. You probably could have done that before you popped it on there, but because I already knew what I was going to do, I've leaped a little bit ahead there. Okay, so in the stamp set we have this wonderful sort of curve of, they almost look like vine leaves, don't they? They've got that sort of grapevine or sort of that sort of look to the leaf, sort of heart-shaped leaf. So I'm going to use that stamp with some black and then try and line it up as best you can. It's quite a big one, so I'll bring my black inking from above rather than inking onto it. It's a good tip when you're using quite large stamps come in from the above. I'm going to line that with the curve as best you can. It sort of flicks up at one end. There we are. There we are. So that's that one. And then I'm going to colour that with some blends, but you can use whatever markers or pencils you happen to favour. I've got the light and dark Call Me Clover, so I'm going to colour with that. And what I'm going to do, just to get the best use of my blends, is just colour probably 90% of each of the leaves in the dark colour. So right up to the edge, except maybe at the very tip or around the very edge. You don't have to be overly careful or exact, I suppose, as long as you sort of go up to a certain part of the edge and stop, just for this effect. I'm actually enjoying the sort of non-exact colouring in these days quite a bit, plus it's quicker and quite effective. Thanks everyone who's joined in. I'm obviously hurrying a little bit to get this mostly done before the kids come into the kitchen and start making mess. But I can see a few names signed in. Kathy, hey Kathy, and Leanne, and Lynn, and Rachel, and Kylie, and Phyllis. Thanks for joining me, guys. Apologies, I'm a few minutes early. As I mentioned, I'm trying to get this mostly done before my kids come into the kitchen. They're cooking cheesecakes, I think they said today. And when my kids get in the kitchen, it's very noisy. I think they've got some sort of games night or something tonight that they're cooking dessert for. Sounds good. Sounds nice. I might ask them to leave some behind. That's the last thing I need though, after 7 months of isolation or working from home. Cheesecakes, probably not a good idea. Okay, I'm getting there. Maybe should have done this before, given the priority. As I say, I'm just going to within whisker of the edge of each leaf. And then, you probably guessed, I'm going to bring the light colour in and blend a light edge, which gives a nice variegated look, I think. I didn't really sort of worry about blending too much because I think it's reminds me of a variegated, potostrum, I think it was, my mum used to have in her garden back in the 70s. Okay, I'm just going to do these little stems between. I'm just going to do those in the dark as well. Apologies if you're seeing the top of my head. Okay, so that's that. Now let's bring the light in. Oh, you did see the top of my head. Apologies about that. At least it's a newly dyed head of hair after yesterday's trip to the hairdresser. Okay, so just bringing the light in and just lightly blending it. I'm not going to go too crazy with the blending. I do quite like the lighter, distinctive lightness on the edges of these. And you'll see what I mean in a moment. Morning, Sally. Apologies, I'm a little bit early. Okay, keep going here, just checking I'm in the middle, roughly in the middle of my camera there. Okay, here we're going, about halfway through, and hopefully you can see that sort of really nice effect that I was talking about with the lightness around the edges of each of these little leaves. Nearly there. This is the only colouring I'm doing today, I promise. It's a bit squeaky. Checking I hadn't missed any comments. Okay. If you're watching this on YouTube, it might be best to scroll through to the end of the colouring or in replay. Nearly there. 1 to go, 2 to go. Okay, so there they are. They're the leaves all coloured. As I say, I quite like that light around the edges of them. I'll bring it in so you can actually have a little bit of a closer look. So that's quite sweet, I think. Okay, so we're nearly done with this one. Very, very, very simple once you get that out of the way. All I'm going to do now is bring in, hopefully 4 little flowers. And these little flowers are from the Arrange a Wreath die cuts, which I absolutely adore at the moment. Every time I seem to reach for something, it seems to be the Arrange a Wreath bundle. And I'm going to just arrange those and glue them so down, up, around, just on our little string of leaves there, just like that. Just with a little bit of glue. Glue's decided to dry up. Doesn't take long. Oh! And and then comes all at once. I'll just pop one there, and I'm sort of alternating it sort of below and above and below and above our vine there, just for a little bit of interest. There we are. There we are. So that's cool. And then the second last part is I've got these little, and I never thought I'd use them, to be honest. I bought them with a bundle and thought, oh, I'm not sure I like those too much, but they've come very handy for this. All the trimmings, embellishments, and so they've got some really nice, there's some little yellow stars and some large and small red and white dots. So I'm actually going to use the small white dots just to give our little flowers a little centre. There we are. And I like the white in the little flower. It seems to contrast and sort of play into the white around it. So yeah, I think these work really well. You could use rhinestones, silver rhinestones, if you had those, if you didn't have the white. I think the white's quite cute. Okay, so I know I've said this is a Christmas card, but it doesn't look very Christmassy at the moment. As I say, I'm trying desperately not to buy any more Christmas stuff, so magically, with the addition of a Merry Christmas, this now becomes a Christmas card. Well, it does in my book anyway. Okay, so we're just going to add a little in that little dip there, that little sort of dip on the left hand side. Just add a Merry Christmas. And ta-da! Instant Merry Christmas. I suppose you could add a Happy Birthday and it would be an instant Happy Birthday card, whatever you actually want the thing to be. The red and white and green sort of scream Christmas as far as I'm concerned there, so I'm quite happy with that. So that is our card number 1. As I say, most of you have seen that one, probably seen that on my Facebook page already, and it got some lovely response, so I thought I would make that for you here today. Okay, so the card number 2, as I say, is a new one that you wouldn't have seen yet. So, and again, it features this beautiful designer series paper, the Heartwarming Hugs designer series paper. Okay, so the card itself is sort of like a scrappy layer card. Here it is. It's like a scrappy layer card with the layers of the Heartwarming Hugs paper, and I've actually cut them with the curvy dies so that you get quite a nice sort of, when it opens, it's got, you can see through the through the die cuts to the card behind. And then I've used my favourite Stitched So Sweetly sentiment boxes there as well. So anyway, so let's give that one a bit of a go. It's probably a little bit careful which order you do this one in, and let's hope I can remember what I did from the original card. This time I have a real red card base, normal size, 8 1/4 by 5 3/4. I have a panel of Whisper White purely just for the inside, so that's cut 1/8 of an inch smaller. And I have a panel of, another panel of real red, which is exactly the same size as the front of the card. Yes, so that is 4 1/8 by 5 3/4. And this is the panel we're going to use to layer up our papers on. Okay, so here I've got some 3/4 inch wide strips of the heartwarming hugs paper. So you can see some of the designs there were really nice. I've used ones that sort of emphasize the red because that's the colour that I'm emphasizing with the card itself. So what I suggest you do, you can use glue to glue these on, but I have a couple of hints for you if you do use glue, as the card in my garbage bin can attest to. Let the glue dry, like totally dry, before you take the next step, or you end up, because we put it through the die cutting machine, you end up with glue sort of splodging out the sides, which isn't a good look. And if you are using glue, make sure you put quite a bit of it at the on the back of the piece of paper. Basically, because once you die cut it, you need something to be sticking it to the paper behind, and if you haven't got enough glue on there, it'll just lift away. But anyway, to counter both those problems, I suggest you use snail adhesive to glue these down. Basically, because you don't have to wait for it to dry, and it will cover all the pieces of paper. So when you die cut them, they'll still remain stuck, so to speak. So what I'm going to do is just randomly pop these pieces of paper onto our cardstock here. So just take the adhesive right to the end and start layering them or putting them on. So I'm going to line them up with the bottom and the side, and they will overlap at the top. It's just because I've cut them a bit long, and we'll trim those off when we're done. Just another piece with the adhesive. I saw a hair on there, did I? Yes. Dog hair. Gets everywhere. And they're not even inside dogs. So line them up, sort of butt them next to each other so they line up completely straight. Just stripping them along as we go. I'm going to have to break my cardinal rule and bring my die cutting machine into picture very shortly, because I want to show you how to cut these to make that curve in the front of the card. And the last one. Now we've only got a tiny, I think if you see there, we've only got like a tiny strip of cardstock left, so I'm going to actually pop the snail adhesive on that little piece, and then bring the final piece of card onto there. Not many of us on today. Must be busy with Saturday morning things, shopping and the like, but hopefully everyone can watch in the replay. I've had such a wonderful response to my 12 Days of Christmas. It's strange to see so few people around. Anyway, so that's the layers of the cardstock. What I'm going to do now is bring in my my guillotine. Don't look at the brand, it's my favourite guillotine. And I'm going to trim those edges back to the edge of the cardstock. So just lining it up with the edge of the guillotine and then trimming it off. Cool. So there we have our 5 3/4 by 4 1/8 piece of cardstock covered with the strips of the designer series paper. Okay, so now what we're going to do is bring in my die cutting machine, and I'll show you how to cut the curve in the front of this card. So we'll find the dies. So the card itself is going to have this sort of decorative scroll curve in it, and I'm going to, if you take note, the cutting surface of the top is hard up on the top of the die. Sometimes it's a fraction of a millimetre back, so you have to take into account that. But this one, it's hard up on the edge, so I know that I can line that up exactly with the top edge of my card, and it'll cut down there. So forgive me with my crashing to the floor for a start. Forgive me with what's about to happen, but I'm bringing my die cutting machine in, and the world is about to start shaking. Okay, so the card here is going to open up like, yeah, so that right hand panel is our front panel. We'll bring in our die, line it up with, now you don't want to cut, oh, it's a bit tricky, I can't quite see. You don't want to cut too far into the back of the card, so line it up there with the edge of the die. So using the fold line as a guide as where to start, and bring it in. Hope it doesn't move too much, which it just did. Big. Okay, this is not a great angle because I'm actually standing at my workstation, and now I'm standing plus on my tippy toes. Might grab a piece of masking tape and keep that in the position I want it. This isn't as difficult as it looks, it's just I'm in a tricky position trying to get it in place. There we are, that's not going anywhere now. Okay, forgive the wobbles. Okay, so there we are. We'll get those little hangy bits out. We've got a nice curve cut into the top of our card there. I'll pop that aside. So now I want to be able to line that up so that it corresponds to the curve in our strip, our piece of paper with our piece of cardstock with the strip on it. So what I'm going to do is pop that in behind. And I'm going to mark that very lightly with a pencil so that when it comes to bring the other die in, I can line them up so that they run sort of true to each other. It's just very light, and we're going to be chopping this part off anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much with a very fine, you probably can't even see it, but it's there, very fine pencil mark. So then I can bring the other die in, which is this dotty one, and I can line it up exactly where I want it to be with the other one. The other way would be better. So, and I'm bringing it down probably from that pencil line. I'll bring it down probably about 3/4 of a centimetre, or 5/8 of an inch, just to give that sort of little stagger that I've got on the original card. I'll bring in another piece of masking tape. Could use your magnetic plate here if you've got one. There we go. And pop this one through. Forgive the wobbles again. Wobble, 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 wobble. Oh dear. Stephen still hasn't watched any videos where I continuously hint that I need a new craft room floor, or at least a new table with some sort of wobble reducing properties. Okay, so now I've got that one cut in the same curve as our original one, hopefully. Now all those little bits have to come out. So obviously cutting through 2 pieces of cardstock, you need to push these through, which I'll just do quickly. Kids haven't come into the kitchen yet, have they? Oh, they're late. They said they were going to come in at 10 o'clock, but it's distinctly quiet in there. Maybe they realised that I was doing a video and they should stay out for a while. Okay, so I'll just get rid of these couple of little bits here as well. Lots of vacuuming there to be done. Okay. We're going to layer these up together so that they run, as I say, they run the same pattern as each other and the sides match up. I am going to have to trim that bottom because obviously it was a little bit long, and I wanted to bring it in so that you can see all of that pretty sort of pattern there. Okay, so I'm going to glue that in. Now I'm not going to glue that in because I was going to bring in some ribbon, which I didn't put on my original, so I decided it would be nice with some red ribbon across the centre. So just bear with me, I'll find my red ribbon. Okay, this is just a plain sort of about a centimetre ribbon, just in the real red as well, so it's available in the current catalogue. So I thought I'd just bring that, I've cut far too much there, bring that across the middle between the 2 layers. So with some double-sided tape, which is nowhere to be found, but it's got to be somewhere. So with some double-sided tape, I'm just going to pop some small pieces on the reverse of that panel, just where I want that piece of ribbon. So probably about there. Let's bring in our sentiment box and see. So I just want it to run underneath the sentiment box, just like that. So the sentiment box there. Yep, about there's fine. Here we are. Just flick that over, take it across, come across you. Even as straight as you can, and then stick it on the other side, and there's your ribbon in place. Then I'm going to glue, now I've done that, I'm going to glue the rest of the card together. Onto the front, while remembering that I'm going to trim that little bit off the end. Okay, just lining those edges up, that's probably the most important thing. Line up the edges and the sides. Put my glue a bit close to the bottom, forgot that I was trimming. Okay, so that's pretty cool, isn't it? So I'm going to bring back my guillotine of no particular brand and trim that off. I often think just because I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator doesn't mean, and I'll probably get into trouble for this, that other brands don't do or don't have products that are really, really good. And you know, I can't pretend that that's not one of my favourite pieces of equipment. Okay, so now we've got that. I'm going to bring in the little white panel and pop it inside, and you can see where this card really starts to shine, because you then see this white panel come through that beautiful die cut at the top there. So just pop that in. As I say, this is 1/8 of an inch smaller, so 4 inches by 5 5/8. So there we are. Isn't that really sweet? The way you can see that white through the die cut there at the top. Okay, so now sentiment box. So I've got my Stitched So Sweetly sentiments, and I'm going again to use the die that makes everything Christmassy, which is Merry Christmas. If I can find it. That's the thing that fell on the floor a minute ago. Where did I put it? Oh Lord. It did fall on the floor, and I did pick it up, and I did put it somewhere. Might have to swap to a different die if I can't find it. A different stamp. Ah, there you are. Okay, so I've got my Merry Christmas, which makes everything Christmassy, and I'm actually going to use real red ink to stamp my sentiment onto the white. Just sometimes too much red just isn't enough. There we are. Then what I'm going to do, just to add a little bit of interest to that sentiment box, is bring in the Pear Pizzazz, which is one of the other colours featured in the designer series paper. I'm going to bring in the stamp set again, because I really wanted to show you a few of the stamps from the stamp set. Probably should have cleaned up a bit before the last card, before I started the next card. I'm going to just use this little, there's a little line of flowers here. It's just this little one here. It's got flowers and vines and things. I'm going to pop that on a block. And bring in a scrap of cardstock. Just a scrap, because I haven't got my grid paper down on this setup. And you can already see what I've done. I've got my Pear Pizzazz and my stamp off once, and because it's got this really nice curve in it, it can just curve so sweetly just above the top of that sentiment box, just to give it some extra interest. And I'm going to do the same up from the bottom as well. Here we are. So it just gives it a little lift than a normal sentiment only. Okay, so we'll get our other sentiment box here. Pop that scrap away. Bring in our card. I'm going to glue the real red sentiment box to the card, and then set the other one up on dimensionals. So I might slip that, just for something a little bit different, slip that under the ribbon. It's different to my original one, but hey, let's change as we go. So slip that just under the ribbon, and then bring my dimensionals in. Keep forgetting where I am and slipping off camera. Apologies, guys. Just for the dimensionals. Okay, and then pop that there. So try and line it up with the sentiment box underneath and the ribbon. There we are. Oh yeah, I like that. That's really nice. So you can see that ribbon sort of goes between the two of them, which is really cute. I wonder whether I should bring a bow in. I haven't tied a bow for you for a while. I'll just use the same ribbon. We'll see if we like the bow or not. Let's see, you guys can tell me whether you like the bow or not. If I can ever tie it. I need my bow jig. Okay, that's not a bad one. Might make it tie a wee bit smaller. Don't like it. Sometimes they go well and sometimes they don't. That one's okay. Yep, that's better. Okay, so I was just thinking if I'm going to use it, I would just use it there to the side. So I'll trim it off and then you can tell me whether you think it should be there or not. Just trim the edges a little bit. Okay, so all I would do is pop it there, probably at an angle, straight. If I do it straight, it's going to cover over our bow, our sentiment too much. So what do we think? Will I bring that bow in or not? I'm actually thinking not, but I'll wait and see what you guys reckon. I'll go with the group. So what do we reckon, bow or no bow? So that's bow or no bow. Just type what you think. I'll tidy up for a second while we wait for the vote. Anyone going to hazard a guess? Or have a strong feeling? No? Well, if no one's going to vote, I'm going to say no bow and I'm going to leave it off. Okay, so that is my second card for today with the quite curvy stamp set. Merry Christmas. We could pop something on the inside there so we don't like nude cards. What else do we have? No, nothing much in that. Arrange a wreath one. We could try and find something from another stamp set. I'll do that shortly. I can hear people clunking around in my kitchen, so I think the kids have actually decided to start their cooking for the day, so it's probably a good time to sign off. Okay, so today we did 2 cards, which I have decided to call a Christmas theme. Actually, now I think about that ribbon, it is quite nice. I might pop that ribbon on just for something a little bit different. Anyway, yeah, so we have 2 cards with the quite curvy bundle. This one was my original one from yesterday, which most of you would have seen on my Facebook page. I really like that. And this one using a strip technique with the dies cutting the sort of really nice little detail into the front of the card there. So I'm just popping this ribbon on. Somewhere. Oh. Maybe there. Yeah, that's quite sweet. There you go. The ribbon's on. No going back now. Okay, so, and this one here with the strip and the card sort of cut away at the front, giving us that beautiful white coming through as well. So the quite curvy bundle is available to customers from the 3rd of November. It is actually a sneak peek of the product that is actually going to be available again or continuously through into the January to June mini catalogue, which comes out in obviously early January. But you can get this one as a preview from the 3rd of November. If you really love it though and you'd like to get it sooner, you can put it into your starter kit if you join my team, the Chatty Stampers, in the next couple of weeks before the 3rd of November. So you can get it now if you really, really like it. Anyway, so there are my cards for today. That's my first play with this bundle, and I'm really liking it. I think I'm going to use it a fair bit over the next 9 months while it's available. So thanks for joining me, everyone. If you would like any information on any of these products, please drop me a message. And if you'd like to join Stampin' Up, as I say, there's always room for you in the Chatty Stampers. So anyway, thanks very much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow for Christmas project number 11. Wow, almost to the end. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.